Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
Welcome to this week's National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. I am your co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine. I'm sitting here with your host, Mr. Lee Martin. And Lee, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic because I just can't wait to talk with our guests and share so much valuable information.
I'm excited about our guests as well, Lee. But let's first, I want to talk to you about NFB Newsline.
Yes, I love NFB Newsline, and I'm sure that plenty of our subscribers to this fantastic service do as well. NFB Newsline, for those of you that have never joined our show, it is audio information service that allows print-challenged individuals, those that are blind, those that have shaking hand syndromes, those that have certain forms of dyslexia, and even those that are deaf-blind can now access this free audio information service to read newspapers, magazines, TV guide listings, job listings, weather listings and alerts, Target and Walmart circulars. For us as blind people, I tell you, I lost my sight 20 years ago, and I was an avid reader of newspapers and different publications. And once I lost my sight, I did not think I'd ever be able to access print in the manner that I do. And in the manner that we do right now, I mean, it's like one of our subscribers indicated to us, it's like having the world newspapers right there at your hand. Wouldn't you agree, Florence?
It is. Yes, it is, Lee. Now,
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, I enjoy Newsline. I didn't think that I'd be able to read newspapers, magazines, but thanks to NFB Newsline, I can still read whenever I like, whenever I like.
Well, what is it you like to read?
Oh, everything. Everything. Newspapers, magazines. Got Ebony Magazine. We have the Indianapolis Recorder. You know, I like that. And it's got AARP. It's got a lot of information for senior citizens like myself. It's got WebMD. It's a plethora of information there. It tells you about better health, maintaining your good health, resources that are in, you know, that you might want to use. But most of all, what I like about NFB Newsline is free.
Yeah, and it has something in there for mostly everybody. We have Stone Soup in there for children from around the world. They can write in and put an article in the Stone Soup magazine. And we also have 17 international newspapers. And we have 17 newspapers throughout the state of Indiana, including the Indianapolis Star, the Indianapolis Monthly, and the Indianapolis Business Journal. So we'll be wanting you to listen to our commercials and throughout our show and listen to the comments that will be following this segment. And we'll be right back with our guest, and we'll surprise you as to who she is.
I love to read. I've always loved to read. Reading takes me places I'm not able to go by air, bus, or car. I plan on reading every newspaper Newsline has.
No more did I have to wonder about the rest of the story when disaster struck. I could open the local paper for that town and find out. And when I discovered that NFB Newsline could be a powerful tool for TV watching, listing all my favorite channels and what was on when, I was most definitely hooked.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduced the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show. In Florence, we have a fantastic guest today, a lady that I hold in high esteem, a lady that has done a lot of work throughout the state, has really dedicated her life to citizens of Indiana. So today we would like to introduce to you a lady that probably doesn't need much introduction, is Representative Robin Shackelford. How are you doing today, Ms. Shackelford?
Good, thank you.
Okay, so how's things going along with the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus?
So things are going great. We're wrapping up our state tour, doing our town halls. So this weekend will be our last one in Hammond.
Okay, and you're the chairperson?
Yes.
Okay, and this Power Caucus, where you're the vice president, could you let us know a little bit about the Power Caucus? What is that?
So the Power Caucus is the Women Caucus, and it's for all the women legislators in the State House. So it's a great caucus because one of the main things that we focus on is raising money and then using that money to give out scholarships to women that need second chances that are going back to school. So this year, I'm actually over that scholarship process. So this is a year that we'll give out the money. We'll give out 20 scholarships at $750 a piece. We try to give out some in STEM and some in traditional education, whatever major the women may be going through. So we get a large application pool. A lot of the women now have learned about it. So right now we are accepting applications until October.
Okay, is there an age range for that?
No, there's no age range, but it is for non-traditional students. So it's not girls that are usually in undergrad. It's usually older women that are going back to school.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And how long has this been going on? Is this something new that just recently started?
Well, the Power Caucus has been around for years, but then it kind of faded out. So we brought it back up, I would say, when I got in 2012, Senator Breaux actually got it reestablished, and she was the president at that time. So at least to 2012, we've been up and running pretty consistently.
Okay. Well, you were first elected to the Indiana House of Representatives in 2012?
Yes.
Okay. And you're representing House District 98?
Yes.
Okay.
So that district used to be former State Representative Bill Crawford's, and he retired. So then I ran in his seat after he retired. He was one of my greatest mentors.
Well, I tell you what, he was one of our greatest mentors here and supporters of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show.
Yes.
And a matter of fact, of NFB Newsline for the state of Indiana. So he was a great supporter, and we miss him dearly.
Yes.
And I know the community at large that he serves misses him dearly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so many of our mentors that have left that we certainly could use here today.
Yes.
You know,
he was very wise, very vocal, but really down to earth.
Yeah,
Very
and I must say he's smiling down on you because you are doing great works.
Oh, thank you.
Representative, tell me a little bit about you. Tell us just a little bit about our representative or what you would like to share.
A little bit about me. Born and raised in Indianapolis, pretty much on the east side in central Indianapolis. My family was a hardworking family. My father worked at Ford. My mom, as I mentioned, worked for the School for the Blind. She also worked for Noble Adult Center. But at the same time, she was a sergeant in the military. So we had that stern, structured upbringing. She retired from the military after 20 plus years as a sergeant first class. I have 2 older brothers, a younger sister. So I am that middle child. I say with my younger sister, sometimes I'm the older kind of sister too, the older sibling. Another thing about me is my family have had a lot of health issues. So have been stricken with cancer that runs in my family. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about healthcare. That's pretty much like a big passion of mine. Both my mother and my father and my grandfather and my brother and one of my aunts have passed of cancer. So it deeply runs in our family.
Wow, that's interesting to know, and thanks for sharing that with us too, because we know that you dedicated your life to the principles of servant leadership throughout the time that you've been in the public's eye. And we mentioned earlier, perhaps there's a young female, African American female or female that wants to know, they're at a crossroads in their life as far as choosing their career paths, and maybe they want to get into the civic arena. What would be your advice to them?
So my advice, first of all, do it. Don't be afraid. I know it's an industry where there's not that many females, so we're always trying to promote and get more females. I think if there is a little girl out there, just think about any change that you want to happen in your community that you see out there, and being in public service, whether if you're a legislator, whether if you're a mayor or governor, it's a great way to bring that change to your community. So I would say definitely do it, get a mentor, and we can help you through the process, because it is a process. It's not like there's a job description, but there's a lot that you have to do. But we are here as women in public service, willing and wanting to help mentor any young lady that's interested.
Okay, and at what age did you actually start becoming interested in civic league?
So mine didn't start to college. So prior to college, I just thought I was going to go into business. I used to be one of them kids that carry around my little briefcase and thought I was going to be a business exec. So when I went off to IU, I was actually going to go to business school. But as I was taking all of the prerequisites, I just realized that they were just too focused on profit. So I went to my counselor my junior year, and I said, there has to be something else that I can use my credits towards, or just not so focused on money, making money and profit. So that's when he advised me to take my first public management class, and I fell in love with it. So then I immediately switched my major to public affairs management, because I just saw it as a way to help my community, because there were so many disparities that I saw being born in Martindale Brightwood and in that urban area on Delaware. I saw the drastic disparities, especially in the school system and in the healthcare system, because there was times so my mother ended up being a single mom at one point, so we was on the welfare system. I grew up in public education, but I was in traditional public education, and then I got to go to North Central, and I could see the drastic difference between, say, Attucks and North Central. So I'm just like, it shouldn't be this way. Everything should be on equal footing. So yeah, that's when I changed my major and said, okay, this is something, I think I could be a representative one day.
All right, all right, all right. I think that's awesome. And I thank you for what you do for the community. It means so much.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Now, as a woman of color, what were some of your challenges that you faced that you entered into politics or continue to face?
So sometimes people don't take you as seriously. For one, we tend to look a little younger than what our age is, and so they don't realize how much I've done until they see my bio. So I was called intern a lot when I first got into politics. Even when I was lobbying, I would go to state legislators' home or try to talk to them, and they would think I was the intern. until they finally hear me speak, or like I said, look at my bio. As a woman, you have to be really stand up for yourself. In the legislature, you get men that can be very condescending, and sometimes it can trigger you and you want to just go at it very passionately, but you have to be rational and maintain your composure, even when it's somebody being condescending, and then just talk to them in a more straightforward, direct manner. So you definitely have to have that confidence, and I would always say the courage in this industry.
Okay, and also as a woman, what would you consider your biggest challenge since you have been a representative?
As a woman, one of the challenges is I think it takes sometime longer to get into those leadership positions. So you have to stay at it and really just grind and continuously and be persistent. I think some women get discouraged. Some women, even when you're running for office, I say there is moments where you just want to cry and just go throw your bag down and be like, that's it, I'd rather just do something easier. But it's just some of those challenges can be being taken seriously. A lot of the men look at your looks and not actually listening to what you're saying. So you got to redirect them. And if they make snide comments, sexual kind of comments, put them in their place very quickly. Mm-hmm.
Well, on that note, we're going to go to take a break right now. And I'm going to say I am thoroughly mesmerized, and I'm not seeing a thing.
Okay.
So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Welcome to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show with our special guest today, Representative Shackelford.
Yes.
And we were talking a few minutes ago about challenges as a woman, as a representative. Mm-hmm. And I know that you're being a woman of color in a position that you're in, that, you know, sometimes, as you mentioned, people don't tend to take you seriously. Mm-hmm. However, I know that even with those challenges, there, I'll put it like this: we take some of those things that and make them stepping stones.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit more about what you do and how you handle those challenges.
So for me, I tend to be a very serious person. So I try to be more lighthearted when I'm talking to people. I take everybody's feelings into consideration. I'm very respectful. I think those things really help, especially when you're working in politics and you have to work across the aisles, as far as whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Being a leader, being over the Black Caucus, you're dealing with all leaders. So it's not like you're a manager or supervising workers, but these are all leaders that you have to motivate. So I see my role as someone that's always trying to get people to be their best and get them to perform at their best, and then whatever I can do to assist to make sure that they're shining. So that's kind of what I do and how my leadership style is in working in this industry and trying to navigate With that, I was able to get 2 bills passed this session. So, and it takes a lot to be in a minority and being able to get bills passed. So it was a lot of that collaboration, working with people, just listening to people, making tweaks. So that's kind of how I work and try to do things, just be a collaborative type leader.
Now, how many members are there in the Indiana Black Caucus?
So there's 13 members between the House and the Senate.
Okay. And what are some of the challenges that you guys face as a Indiana Black Caucus?
So each year we put out our agenda based on what we see the needs are of our community. Right now we're in a super minority in the House and the Senate. But this year we did something a little different with our agenda. We usually have a press conference going over what our agenda is. I actually had each rep and senator got to pick their favorite bill, and we developed that into the agenda. So we had 13 bills altogether, but we had 4 that we were going to really focus on as our top 4. That included hate crimes legislation, traffic amnesty, a study to see homicides as a health issue, and then of course teacher pay raises. And this year we went and met with each leader of the House and the Senate. Normally we would just go to the Democrats and meet with that leadership. But we went ahead and met with all 4 in the House and the Senate. And then any time that we did something, we're coming as a unified group. So sometimes we would just have the House member meet with the House members, the Senate members meet with Senate. But this year we said we're going to keep that unified group, and everybody went and met in the House, everybody went and met in the Senate. And anytime we had a meeting during session or talking to leadership or what our needs were for our community, we did it in a unified voice. Now, did we get a lot of that passed? Some of it, we actually had a good success rate out of our members in what was on their agenda or what was other bills that they wanted to get passed. So it could be challenging, but this year I think we had a very successful year.
Now, for those young ladies who might be interested in following your footsteps,
yes,
how young should they start, you know?
So I recently spoke to this young group of ladies. They were in a summer STEM program, and I think they were about somewhere junior high or a little less. But I would say start as soon as possible. So like my niece is 8. I've taken her to a lot of meetings. I've taken her looking at me doing presentations. She'll tape them and listen to it over and over again. But I say it's never too young to start, because you want to just ingrain it in their head that they can be anything that they want to be, and start out really young. I say, since my mother was in the Army, she used to wear her favorite T-shirt that had a saying on there, "A woman can do anything a man can do, but better." So I grew up with that mentality instilled in me that I can be great and do anything that I want to do. So I would say start out as young as possible and start developing their mindset that they are courageous and they can do anything.
Absolutely.
Now, in this capacity, do you find children or young adults with disabilities being involved or engaged in such initiatives?
Yes, so we have a lot of kids come down from Noble. They make us little items that they bring down to the State House. They have their lobbying day, and they're very engaged. So you can talk to some of those kids, get involved with them. As far as other kids with disability and being more involved, I see some down at the State House. So I see them coming and speaking. In Health Committee, we see a lot of that because there may be a bill or issue where a child has gotten some type of disease and now has a disability, and they'll come in and testify. And it's good when we have the kids come in and testify with their parents, the ones that can say like what they're going through, because it puts that personal face on it. And we see exactly what they're going through. And kids are so resilient. When the kids come in there and testify, sometimes they may start crying, but they're talking about how they overcame, but also how the disease is affecting them. So I like to see the kids come in and be engaged.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with the conclusion of this segment of our show. And stay tuned.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
Wow, I scored a touchdown when I found sports on NFB Newsline.
I enjoy reading TV guide listings on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind. We read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
I want to welcome you back to the conclusion of our show and with the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. The National Federation of the Blind is an organization that's the largest organization of organized blind citizens in the country. We've been around since 1940 advocating for the rights of blind citizens. Our national office is located in Baltimore, Maryland, and we have affiliates throughout 50 states, including the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. So to find out more information about the National Federation of the Blind, please join us by going to nfb.org. It's nfb.org, and learn more about our organization and our affiliate here in Indiana. Representative Shackelford, thank you for joining us today, and I know you'll be back for the next week's show.
Yes.
But you would leave us with a brief synopsis for today's show.
So I would say that if there is a young lady that's wanting to go into politics, definitely do it. We need you, we want you, and if you're sitting there thinking, should I do it? I'm going to say yes, and we would definitely appreciate it.
So on that note, we again would like to thank you for joining us for the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show, and we look forward to seeing you next week, where again we'll have Representative Shackelford.
National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.